Absolutely nothing beats windshield time. Welcome back to Dan the Road Trip Guy, a podcast where we have candid conversations about life lessons learned on the road. I'm your host, Bimmer enthusiast and road trip extraordinaire, Dan Neal. And now, on to the show. Well, it's a beautiful day in Cincinnati, and no better time than to take a morning drive. It's Saturday, sun's out, traveling westbound on U.S. Route 50 with my longtime good friend, Kevin Hassey. And so I'm just excited to do this. When I started this crazy podcast, I wanted to ride around with people. Well, this week, I've got the opportunity to ride around with two longtime friends. With that said, welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and I'm just thrilled you're here. You got 2 minutes. I like to usually say I'm on a racetrack and we got a little warm-up lap here, and you jumped in the car and you get to tell me just who is Kevin Hassey?
Grew up in Boston, stayed there till I was about 20 or so, and then came out here to Cincinnati. I've spent most of my time in Cincinnati since then. Have a wonderful wife, Roseanne, and 3 great kids. We really enjoy being here. The kids are grown now and they're off doing their own thing.
Yeah, as long as I've known you, you've been kind of in the, as far as I know, in the eye care, eye vision business.
Yep, the glasses space, yes. A bunch of time with Luxottica Group, and then with National Vision down in Atlanta.
Yeah, and we'll get to more of that later, and talk about some things you do outside the U.S. in regards to vision. Let's talk about your first car. Way back when. I want to know about that first car.
Oh, 1967 Camaro, orange, white top.
Convertible?
Convertible.
Oh.
Yep. It was delightful. And drove it for probably a couple of years, and then, as happens to younger folks, I wrecked it. But I enjoyed it while I had it. It was stunning.
Yeah. Did you buy that new?
No, very used.
Very used, okay. Yeah. So, what year was that?
67.
No, what year did you buy it?
Oh, probably, I have to believe 74, 75.
Okay. You were 16? Maybe?
Yeah,
16,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Was that a automatic or a stick?
It was an automatic.
Okay, automatic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Super Sport or just base model?
Just base model.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was very cool to ride around.
Yeah.
Never gave me any problems.
Yeah. So you crashed that. And so what'd you replace it with?
But this is, you're just not going to be impressed with what I replaced it with. I think I'd gone off to college and I didn't have as much money, and so a Vega.
Chevy Vega?
Yeah. You know what you do with the Chevy Vega? You go to the gas station, you fill it up with gas, and you fill it up with oil. Every time.
Yeah. My uncle was the Chevy dealer in our hometown, and I remember the Vega.
They just had that problem. But I think it made it an inexpensive car to buy. Yeah. And so you just knew that going in. But it worked for me fine. I drove it for probably another 2-3 years.
Yeah. I guess that was part of America's answer to the fuel situation back then.
Yeah, exactly. It's 1976, 1977, all that. Interest rates were 20%, and cars, everything was going crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. Too bad you still don't have that Camaro, though, because you could cash out on that one.
Yeah.
Takes us to second question. I usually like to ask: epic road trip in your lifetime. Just one that stands out that maybe with the family, maybe with when you were growing up, that just you'd do it again today.
We one time were going to New York to get a plane to Haiti.
Yes.
And it was the 5 of us, and we had all sorts of stuff we were bringing, and we were going in a Highlander, and it was jam-packed with people and stuff. And then the Highlander didn't work. It just wouldn't go.
Huh.
So we had a Prius, and so here we are, Cincinnati to New York. We reload all the stuff into the Prius, and there were legs up on the dashboard. There were just fitting that much volume of people and things into a car for that long a trip was such a humorous thing, and so stuffed, and anybody looking at us along the road would laugh, but everybody, the kids were very good-natured about it, and we went the distance, and we got there, and we got to Haiti, but I think folks were laughing. I think you were there that time, and maybe even when we got to the airport, you were just saying, like, how did you get to the airport? Like, in a Prius, man. And you just couldn't believe that kind of volume had been in the Prius. But we turned it into a joyously fun family trip, and everybody remembers that trip from Cincinnati to New York. Yeah, fondly.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you could have done a Toyota commercial for that.
Yeah,
just how much stuff can you get in a Prius?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. No, speaking of Haiti, yeah, you ventured down there solo without us one Christmas, and then we went together as two families for Christmas one year, and I recall that was a great trip. And you all have traveled a lot of international places, and I think that was your first trip to Haiti, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was. And so I bet we've been there as many as 5 times, and I know you've been there way more than 5 times. It's a hard place, but people with hearts of gold, and it's a great place to try to go and help folks.
Yeah.
And to go with you.
Yeah. Well,
so we've enjoyed our time there, both helping the folks and our times hanging out with the Neils.
Yeah, that was fun for sure. So we talked a little bit about you've been in the, I don't know what you call it, eye care world, vision world.
Vision world,
If you say vision, maybe people think you're setting vision, but you've not only been involved in the business side of that for years, you have also been very involved from I don't know if you want to call it a humanitarian standpoint, a not-for-profit standpoint. Talk about that a little bit, how you got involved in that side of eye care.
Yeah. Well, there's this whole dynamic that we take for granted, just that everybody has glasses and they can see. There's probably like 8 billion people in the world, no, 10 billion people in the world, but one of the 10 or one of the 8 needs glasses and doesn't have them. And so for them, they see a foggy vision, but they think that's the way you're supposed to see the world because they don't know anything differently.
Right.
And so that's the way they live, but they don't, their work is compromised, their reading is compromised, anything to do with vision is compromised. They don't live the best life that they can live. And so what we work on is getting glasses for those billion people. And the challenge is to scale it up. You can do 100 people, 1,000 people. How do you do 10 million people or 20 million people or 30 million people is what we try to spend most of our effort on.
Yeah. Are you focused on a particular country at this time, or just wherever the need might be?
Well, the need is mostly on a couple of continents. It's over in Asia, primarily in India and China, and then in Africa. So it's mostly over that way, and that brings me to those places more often than not, as compared to like South America or something like that.
Yeah. Are there, so in those countries, and I don't know, are there vision specialists, like we have here, or just doesn't exist, or people can't afford it?
Way fewer eye doctors. So, whatever the ratio is of an eye doctor to population, in the United States, it's probably 1/20th of that in those places.
Okay.
And so they just catch as catch can, and mostly just live with bad eye conditions and without glasses.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how something like that, which we take for granted, can compromise your life a good bit.
Yeah. You do have one funny story about once traveling, I believe, to India, maybe.
Oh, this was funny.
Well, that's a funny story. You have to share that story.
Yeah, okay. So I was going to India, and it was the first time that I did travel for myself. Most of the time, travel was organized for me, and I just had to get on the plane. And so I brought my passport, and I bought a ticket, and I went to India, and I got on the plane and showed the passport, and off I went to India. I got to, just as we were about to land, somebody said, fill out this form, and it had a visa number on it. I'm like, I don't have a visa number. And so I asked the flight attendant, I'm like, what's the deal with the visa number? And she's like, you have to have a visa number. I'm like, I don't have one.
Can I get one? Can I get one right now?
Can I get one? And I totally downplayed it, and I could see the panic on her face. She was like, oh my God, no visa number, seat 23A, we got a mayday. So we leave the plane, go to customs. I still am pretty light duty about this. I'm like, well, whatever, guys, what do we do? And the long and short of it was, they said, you go back home. I'm like, I go back home?
I just got here.
Like, you see that guy over there, right there? He's going to pick me up. He's taking me to my hotel. And they said, no. And I said, surely, come on. Like, you fill out a form, you pay a fine, do whatever. I just flew 18 hours here. The long and short of it is, I flew home on the same flight that I flew there. This all happened while they refueled, and I did 36 hours in the air. And so I went back. I was at the Exotica group at the time, and I had left on Friday, and I was back at my desk on Monday morning, and the person next to me said, I thought you went to India. I said, I did go to India.
I'm back. So I guess now when you travel, check for visa requirements.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've told that to a bunch of folks, and I think I've spread the word across a broad population that you better make sure you have the right paperwork.
Your family's traveled a lot out of the country together. One epic place you've been that just jumps out?
Let's see. I'd probably go South Africa.
Oh, okay.
We went down to South Africa for the World Cup.
Okay.
But we've been there 2-3 times maybe. But the World Cup one stands out for me. It was just great going to the games. And also is somewhere in Johannesburg and somewhere in Cape Town. So we got to spend time in both those cities. Eventually, Kate lived for a semester, our daughter,
right,
in Cape Town. And she also did a summer internship in Cape Town, or not in Cape Town, but in South Africa. The trip to the World Cup was a ton of fun, and we got to see some friends who live in South Africa at the time, so quite enjoyable.
You and Roseanne, I don't know, it's been a while now. You moved out from, I guess we call it suburbia, out where we still live, and now you took up resident downtown Cincinnati in an area called Over the Rhine, which has been, I guess, brought back to life and near the new soccer stadium. Tell us about how it is living in a downtown area compared to our little sleepy village out east.
The sleepy village is wonderful, and then I compare it to downtown. The sleepy village is, it's got absolutely delightful people, and it's a delightful neighborhood. We really enjoyed calling it home for basically decades.
Sure.
But now being downtown, it's probably very different. It's nice having a ton of restaurants sort of close by. Many, like the theater, restaurants. There's just amenities galore. Findlay Market close by, and so we enjoy the urban lifestyle. Then it's a much more diverse population. It's interesting. It has, it has all sorts of strengths, and then it has all sorts of challenges that come in an urban environment. Try to walk in other people's shoes and see how their life's going, and how do you help different people. But it's definitely got a larger diversity of backgrounds and lifestyles that you interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's cool. I like, we love coming down there, come and visit you. We'll go out to dinner down there, and just have a lot of friends who go, "Oh, you go downtown?"
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, it's great. You should get out more often.
Yeah.
So, question for you. You've been a lot of places, you've done a lot of things, but what's on your bucket list?
Still probably going more places. There's a app that is called Ben, B-E-E-N.
Okay.
And you just input the countries you've been to. It makes a map for you of every place you've been and every place you haven't been. I've probably been to about 70 countries.
Oh, wow.
But there's definitely clear bucket list ones. We want to go to New Zealand, Australia, Croatia, Costa Rica. We haven't been to yet.
Okay.
So there's a top 4 or 5 that are kind of on our near-term horizon, but a lot of travel, and I think some will be with family, some will be with friends. Look forward to doing a lot of that. Some domestic as well.
Yeah.
We tried with the kids to do all 50 states.
I was going to ask you, have you been to all 50 states?
We got to about 40.
Okay.
Then it lost a little bit of energy. I think we were running out of time, and also that the states that were left weren't that sexy. It wasn't like we're going to California. It was like we're going to North Dakota.
Yeah, sure.
And it was, when the kids were late teenagers, it was hard to get the rally going for some of that Midwestern states.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. We're going to Oklahoma. No, we're not.
Is there one in particular that you would like to check off that list that you can think of?
Wyoming.
Wow, it's beautiful.
It's just beautiful, and we've never been there.
Yeah, so we would highly recommend that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the town's called Du Bois. I don't know. We stayed in an Airbnb there, and it felt like a cowboy town. We walked down the sidewalk, I guess, and it was wooden planks. And we stayed with the most wonderful lady. She had 2 kind of primitive cabins, and if we ever get back there, I want to stay there again.
Yeah.
Just need to arrive before dark because it was a little tricky.
You've done a great job of getting out and around the country. I bet you've done as many or more states than we have.
I've got a few left. Linda has a few more than I do, so we want to try to knock those off. And I've actually mapped out a drive of covering all 49. And then we've been to Hawaii. So maybe when we're not working full time, we can take 3 months and visit all 49.
Yeah. Have you been to Alaska?
No, we have not. Have you?
Yes, you got to go.
Yeah, we've got that. And I really want to drive. I want to drive from Seattle to Alaska.
This is a funny story. It was a family trip that we went to Alaska. Roseanne's family, and there were probably 15 of us in total between her 2 brothers and their kids and so on and so forth. And it left from Seattle on a cruise.
Okay.
And I don't know, I was doing business somewhere, and the rest of the family went on their own, and I was going to join up with them in Seattle. Well, my plane was late, and I got there, and everybody else in our group, all 14 of them, were on the boat, and the boat had left. So I was the only person on the shore in Vancouver. And I simplistically thought, well, again, this is kind of like my trip to India. This is no problem, I'm sure. You must have a helicopter here. You just like pick it up, drop it on.
This has to have happened before.
Yeah, exactly. I am not the first person to do this. You drop it and drop me on the boat, and we're all happy. And they said, no, there is no helicopter. You're living in a dream in your mind. You have missed the boat.
Yeah, missed the boat, literally.
Yeah, missed the boat. The best thing we can suggest to you is get on a plane and it'll stop in Alaska, and you're going to fly to Alaska. So I did. I flew to Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Turns out that, and you would know this, but and I should have thought about it. Getting on a cruise ship now is like getting on in an airport. You know, it's got that kind of security. They really aren't made for somebody dropping into the cruise ship in Alaska. I did get on, but it was, and even that solution was a little harried when they realized it was kind of like they had to check federal laws. Are we allowed to add a person? And who the heck is he?
Yeah.
But I got on, and all was well for the rest of the trip. Turns out the roughest part of the trip, like sea-wise and people getting sick and stuff like that, was Vancouver to Alaska.
So you missed that.
I missed it, and I just was hanging out in a coffee shop reading a book.
You get to take a road trip with anybody, living or deceased. Who is it? Where are you going? What are you going to drive? Maybe that old Camaro, right? But yeah, tell me about that.
Okay.
You got to think about that one.
No, it's a childhood hero.
Oh, wow, okay.
Was Robert Kennedy. He just cared about the less fortunate at an extreme. Mm-hmm. And a very mixed audience. Like you see today's politicians, it's, I don't know, there's along racial lines or ethnic lines or whatever, people kind of go in little herds. He just attracted everybody, and you know, when he ran for president, I would like to have been in his car. I think in particular, even though he was a white person, I think he was, a particular passion of his was advancing black people in America, and I think the world would have been, in the United States, would have been very different if he had lived.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Where would you go?
You know,
just ride around like we're doing?
Ride around in his campaign. Okay.
Perfect. I like that.
And then have his campaign be successful. I've seen so many pictures and seen so many videos of what it was like, and it just was the kind of energy and the focus of the energy was huge and visionary. I remember the night that Martin Luther King died. Robert Kennedy was going to speak in a lesser income area in a challenged area in Indianapolis, and everyone said, as a white person, this just isn't the night to be going into a more diverse area.
Yeah.
And he went and spontaneously gave one of the best speeches of his life. I would have liked to have been in that car when he went into that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And seeing him in that environment and seeing the people with whom he was interacting. I think he, by and large, told them that, tonight Martin Luther King has been killed, and he was killed by a white person.
Right.
So it was April of 1968, and then he died in June of 1968.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm correct.
That's good.
That's who I'd like to ride around with.
I like that. You have a big family? I don't really know.
2 brothers, 2 sisters.
Okay.
Everybody stayed in Boston, so various suburbs.
Yeah. What brought you to Cincinnati?
P&G.
P&G. Procter & Gamble.
Yep.
In case people don't know, this is the home of Procter & Gamble.
Same as Roseanne, my
Right.
wife. So I was the Mr. Clean brand manager. She was the Top Job brand manager, another cleaner. And so Mr. Clean married Top Job. And a funny story.
Is that how you all met?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At a later point in time, they made, on their own, we were long gone, they decided to make a commemorative Mr. Clean Top Job combined bottle. And we have one on our shelves encased in glass.
That's so fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just like, why they decided to do that, I don't know. I don't think it was a salute to our marriage, but they opted to do it, so we sure bought some.
What was your first job at Procter & Gamble?
They call it brand assistant, so it's a pretty structured program in the marketing area, and you go from being a brand assistant to an assistant brand manager to a brand manager, and I started as the brand assistant on this Mr. Clean brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Did you stay in that Mr. Clean for your duration?
This is just kind of funny. I jumped over to this brand that they call at the time P&G. And probably to this day, still has codes for their development brands.
Okay.
They haven't brought it to the market yet, so I'm working on B99, and B99 is this bleach product, but I can't say it's a bleach product, and so on and so forth at the time.
Right.
And you live in these alternate universes. You're talking about B99, and I can't tell you what it is in 99.75% of America. They don't care what B99 is.
Right. I just want to buy some bleach.
Yeah. And so, but those were the rules. You can't, if you worked on a secret cop right there, if you worked on a secret brand, you couldn't pull the paperwork out on a plane. You couldn't talk about it. You'd get reprimanded, even fired, if somebody overheard you chatting anything about it in a restaurant or something like that.
Okay.
So they took all that stuff really seriously, which people like my family would think was silly.
Right.
What do you do? I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Don't you work in a consumer goods company? I can't tell you.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, I like to wrap up the show by giving my guests an opportunity to promote themselves, their business, although you've retired now.
Yeah.
Or a not-for-profit, which I know you're connected to many of those. So whatever you want to share, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I say to everybody, go see the world. It's a big place and lots of different experiences. That's what we're going to try to do, and I'll try to help a lot of folks see better is in the mix of doing other things as well. But whatever your fancy or passion is, you do the same, and together we'll make the world a better place. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, it's been a pleasure to ride around with you on this beautiful Saturday morning here in Cincinnati.
It is delightful. It is so sunny, and
so I appreciate your
clear
time and your friendship, and
Yeah.
after all these years, and as we would tell our wives, we are winners at euchre.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a total other aside, just because there aren't that many with this capability, and it's pretty impressive. We're also wonderful puppeteers.
We are,
And not many people know that.
not many people know that, and we don't really tour any longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad this is just an audio audience. If we had audio and visual, we could really impress a ton of folks.
And I'm sure it would go viral.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm sure our wives would leave us. Or threaten us. All right. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, and we look forward to having you back again next time. In the meantime, if you want to find me, you can find me on the internet at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, Neal, Neal.com. Until we meet up again, keep having conversations and keep driving.